Hello, I'm Rodney Hill, Product Manager here at Atlas Copco. And today we're going to configure our PowerFocus 8 to work with the Extensible Authentication Protocol Transport Layer Security, also known as EAP TLS. This video will also be applicable to our IxB tools that support this same standard. So let's jump right into the software.
This video is being done on a PowerFocus 8. It is also applicable to the Tensor IxB series of battery tools. So to start with, I'm going to click on my settings icon here. I'm going to scroll down. I'm already connected to my factory port here to my wired network. And now I will move down, check the channels for my wireless. I've already selected all the 2.4 gigahertz channels. I'm not using any of the 5G channels for today. I'm going to go on down to the wireless client here and click on edit. Right now my wireless client is turned off, so my radio is not trying to connect to anything at the moment. We're going to change that and go ahead and configure it here. I will switch this on and I can see a bunch of new menus appear. I'm going to use DHCP selected here. If you wanted to specify your static address, subnet, and gateway, you could do that. For this video, I'm just going to use DHCP. I'm using a Raspberry Pi with host APD and free radius on it. If any of you wish to set up this environment and test it yourself. My network name here is already populated in here because I've used this before. Rodney Test 01 TLS is what we're going to use today. We're not going to use W2A personal. WPA2 personal is what people generally use with their home networks, where you have one password that you share with all the devices. We do see this sometimes in plant floor environments, but a lot of customers these days are moving to other types in the WPA2 enterprise mode that are considered a little bit more secure. So we're going to switch it over to WPA2 Enterprise, and we'll see that now we have a lot more options to populate besides just a shared password. So the first thing here is encryption. So I already have my encryption type set to CCNP. If I click on the dots, I can see my other options here. I could use TKIP. That's a bit of an older standard that's not really used much anymore. If you don't know what to select here, I would select CCNP, also known as AES. If you see that in your specification, CCNP has been the, I would say, the more accepted standard for the last few years. There are some problems with the TKIP protocol that can make it less secure. Our EAP method that we'll use here is TLS. We do have other options, and we may have some videos on these if you need information on setting these up. We're going to focus on TLS today, which is Transport Layer Security. As I set up these other fields here, a lot of the things from here on out will be specific to your environment. So the identity field here is actually something that's really used for legacy devices or legacy radius servers, where it would require a number or some text here to tell it which type of EAP method we were going to use for authentication. We know, and most devices now are smart enough to detect what type they're going to use and select it automatically. But this does require some value to be put into this field. So for this, I'm just going to put the character A in there, and that's fine. We're not going to use our username and password for this setup. We are going to import certificates in here for this to set this up. So I've already got my certificates in the PIM format. There are a lot of different formats that you can have certificates come in. You will have to convert them to either the PIM or the DARE format, DER, to be used with this particular products. I recommend the PIM format. I think it's a little bit easier to work with than some of the other ones, and you can still leave your private key encrypted with the password. So we're going to select our CA, which is our certificate authority. This is optional. Some people will use this, some will not. If you don't require certificate authority, it's fine if you just skip this. I'm going to put it in here today to show what it looks like. Our client certificate, I'm going to browse and I'll connect my client certificate now. We'll upload that. My private key file will upload as well. The way my particular software converted this, it uses my email address .pim. So I will install that here and go on down, and my private key password is the password that I used when I created that key. And this is in case it falls into the wrong hands. They won't be able to use it without that private key password. That's optional. You may or may not use that. I have turned it on here for my files. It's kind of a best practice, I would say. So once I have this information, I can click apply. It's going to kick me back to the last screen. If I scroll back down here to my wireless client, it will connect eventually if everything goes well and all my settings were correct. This can take the first time up to about 30 seconds. Usually after that, it will generally cache your user credentials on the server side and make this a little bit faster. And we can see here now just updated, and I am connected to my wireless network. So using EAP TLS on the Tensor IxB and the PowerFocus 8 family is really pretty easy to do. The biggest challenge you might run into is if you have certificates in another format, they will need to be converted, as I mentioned there, to either the PIM or the DIR format. There are tools to do that on the internet. If you use OpenSSL is a really easy way to do that. There's also an application called XCA Converter that converts certificates to different formats. Once you have those converted, it's very easy to install them on the tool, and there you go, you'll have your wireless set up and running.
This has been how to configure your tool with EAP TLS. I hope this video has been useful. If you have any more questions, please contact your Atlas Copco representative. Thanks for watching.